In the quiet corners of American life, where people opened their mail without fear and universities hummed with the sound of new ideas, a shadow silently grew. It was a menace no one could see, no one could predict, and for years no one could stop. It came in the form of ordinary packages, brown paper, simple strings, handwritten labels. They looked innocent, but inside those packages lived death. The sender was unknown, his motives unclear, and his identity invisible. For the next 17 years, this faceless figure would strike again and again, leaving behind bomb fragments, burned buildings, injured students, terrified airline passengers, and grieving families. His name would later become synonymous with one of the longest and most elusive manhunts in American history. He would be known as the Unabomber. The story of the Unabomber begins long before the FBI ever heard of him. It begins in the life of a young prodigy, Ted Kaczynski. Born in 1942 in Chicago, Ted was not just smart, he was extraordinary. By age 16, he was accepted into Harvard University. To most families, Harvard is the peak of achievement, the gateway to success, prestige, and a promising life. But for Ted, Harvard was something else entirely. He was younger, smaller, more socially awkward than his classmates. He kept to himself, avoided social gatherings, and spent most of his time alone. Many people describe Harvard as the place that sharpened Ted's mind but also deepened his loneliness. During his years at Harvard, something strange happened, something still debated today. Ted volunteered for a psychological experiment, led by Professor Henry Murray. The experiment involved intense psychological stress and verbal attacks, designed to break down a person's sense of self. Ted participated for years. Some researchers believe this experience damaged him deeply, reinforcing his distrust of authority, science, and society. By age 25, Ted had already become one of the youngest mathematics professors in the history of the University of California, Berkeley. His future seemed bright, but only 2 years later, he suddenly resigned without explanation. He walked away from academia, from the promising life he was building, and disappeared into the wilderness. Ted's next home was a tiny wooden cabin near Lincoln, Montana. No electricity, no running water, no technology. A place frozen in time, swallowed by nature. Ted Kaczynski wanted to escape the world he hated, but he could not run from his anger. In that cabin, he began writing, planning, and building. What he built were bombs. The first device appeared in 1978 at the University of Illinois. A professor noticed a strange package left in a parking lot and decided to investigate. When he opened it, the device exploded, injuring his hand. Investigators were confused. The bomb was handmade, carefully constructed, but nothing tied it to a motive. No organization claimed responsibility. No message was sent. The mystery had begun. A year later, another package appeared, this time at Northwestern University. It exploded and injured a graduate student. Again, no motive, no signature, nothing. But the FBI noticed a pattern. The targets were universities and airlines. They introduced a code name, Unabomber, short for University and Airline Bomber. And eventually, the man behind these attacks would be called the Unabomber. In 1980, the Unabomber struck again. This time he sent a letter bomb addressed to the president of American Airlines. It exploded on a plane, filling the cabin with smoke and forcing an emergency landing. Miraculously, no one died. But the intention was clear. The bomber wanted mass casualties. The FBI formed a special task force. Dozens of agents, analysts, scientists, and bomb experts worked around the clock. But the Unabomber was always one step ahead. He used homemade components, leaving no fingerprints, no traces of modern materials, and no predictable patterns. His bombs were built like puzzles, unique, complex, evolving over time. Each explosion was a message more than a murder attempt. From 1981 to 1985, the attacks continued. Professors, students, and scientists were targeted. One victim was a computer store owner in Sacramento, who opened a package that detonated instantly, killing him. For the first time, the Unabomber had taken a life. And he was not done. He attacked again in 1987, leaving another deadly device outside a store in Salt Lake City. A witness saw the bomber, wearing a hooded sweatshirt and aviator sunglasses. A sketch was drawn, one that would become iconic. But the sketch alone could not identify him. Hundreds of leads came in, but none matched. Then, 4 years, silence. From 1987 to 1993, the Unabomber disappeared again. Many thought he had stopped. Some believed he was dead. Others suspected he had been arrested on unrelated charges. But the truth was simpler. He was waiting. In 1993, he returned, with deadlier bombs and more sophisticated designs. He targeted geneticists, computer scientists, and technology professionals. People he believed were destroying the natural world with modern science. His ideology was becoming clearer, but his identity remained hidden. In 1994, he murdered a prominent advertising executive, sending him a package that exploded at his doorstep. A year later, in 1995, he killed a timber industry lobbyist with another mailed bomb. Panic spread across the country. Mailrooms were scanned. Universities tightened security. The American public lived in fear of opening their mail. But the Unabomber had something more to say. That same year, he sent a letter to major newspapers, the New York Times and the Washington Post. In the letter, he made a proposal: publish his 35,000-word manifesto, titled Industrial Society and Its Future, and he would stop the bombings. The manifesto was a long, detailed criticism of modern technology, industrialization, and the loss of personal freedom. Some called it philosophy, others called it madness. After intense debate between newspaper executives, law enforcement, and the government, the manifesto was published. The belief was simple: someone, somewhere, might recognize the writing style. And someone did. His brother, David Kaczynski. David had always sensed something unusual about Ted. He knew about Ted's anger toward society, his isolation, and his belief that technology was destroying humanity. But when he read the manifesto, something clicked. The writing style, the arguments, the vocabulary, it was unmistakably Ted's. David was torn. He loved his brother, but he feared the truth. After long discussions with his wife and months of emotional struggle, David approached the FBI. He provided letters Ted had written years earlier. Linguistic analysts compared them with the manifesto, and the similarities were undeniable. The FBI finally had their suspect. In April 1996, agents surrounded Ted's remote cabin. When they entered, they found stacks of bomb components, detailed diagrams, chemicals, and a live bomb ready for use. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was arrested without resistance. In 1998, he pleaded guilty to all charges to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His cabin was seized, placed in a museum, and later destroyed. The Unabomber's legacy is a chilling combination of intelligence, madness, and violence. He was a mathematical genius who believed technology was enslaving humanity. But instead of using his brilliance to build, he used it to destroy. For 17 years, he waged a one-man war against society.